He was not a hero. He was not a soldier, not a leader, not a man of power. He was just a worker in a large company that stretched across the city like a cold iron machine. His name was Daniel, and he believed in something small, something that most people around him forgot: kindness. Every day he came early, every day he worked hard. But what set him apart was not his speed or his skill, it was his heart. When someone dropped papers, he picked them up. When someone looked tired, he offered to finish their work. When someone cried in the corner of the office, he sat with them quietly, saying no great words, but making them feel less alone. But the company was not built on kindness. It was built on numbers, on profit, on rules. In that place, kindness was seen as weakness. Helping others meant wasting time. Caring meant slowing down. And so, slowly, the eyes of the managers began to notice him, not with respect, but with anger. One day his manager called him in. The office was made of glass walls, shining and sharp. The manager's voice was cold, like a machine reading numbers. "Daniel, we cannot keep you anymore," the manager said. Daniel looked confused. "But why? I have never been late. I finish all my tasks." The manager leaned back. "You help too much. You care too much. You slow others down with your kindness. We need workers, not dreamers. You are dismissed." The words fell heavy, like stones on his chest. Fired, not because he failed, not because he broke the rules, but because he was kind. He walked out of the building with a small box in his hands. Inside were little things: an old notebook, a pen, a photo of his late parents, and a tiny plant he kept on his desk. The plant's leaves trembled in the cold air. Outside, the city moved fast. People walked without looking at each other. Cars rushed like rivers of steel. Neon lights glowed. But the world felt darker than ever. He stood there, feeling small, as if the ground itself wanted to push him down. Why is kindness a crime? He thought. His heart ached. He had no plan, no job, no money. Only his gentle soul, which now felt useless in a world that punished it. The evening fell, and the streets grew colder. He walked slowly, holding his box, his steps heavy. Each shadow on the street seemed longer, each sound sharper. The laughter of strangers sounded far away, like echoes from another world. He passed a group of workers from his old company. They were drinking and laughing. One of them saw him and whispered to the others. They all laughed louder, as if his kindness was a joke that would never end. Daniel lowered his head and walked faster. Rain began to fall, soft at first, then harder, beating on the box in his hands. The photo of his parents got wet. The ink of his notebook began to blur. He hurried to find cover, but the city offered no shelter. Then, in that moment of sadness, he noticed something. At the end of the street, sitting under a broken streetlight, was an old woman. She looked strange, her clothes torn, her skin pale with a faint glow, almost silver under the rain. People passed by her as if she was invisible. No one stopped. No one cared. Daniel slowed down. His heart, even in pain, could not ignore her. He stepped closer. Her eyes lifted, and for a moment, it felt like time stopped. Those eyes were not normal. They were deep, ancient, carrying a light that did not belong to this world. She looked at him as if she already knew his story, as if she had been waiting, and though he did not know it yet, his fall, the moment he lost everything, was also the beginning. For the old woman was not what she seemed. She was the doorway to a greater future, one he could never imagine. But on that rainy night, all he knew was that he was alone, broken, and lost. Yet somehow, his heart whispered to him. The rain kept falling, making the streets shine like mirrors of broken light. Daniel stood there, holding his little box, staring at the strange old woman sitting under the broken street lamp. Most people walked past her, eyes fixed on their own path, too busy to notice. But Daniel could not walk away. His heart, even after being crushed, still whispered that no one should be left alone in the cold. Slowly, he stepped closer. The woman's clothes were torn, her hair long and silver like threads of moonlight. She looked fragile, but her eyes, those eyes were different. They glowed faintly, not like any human eyes he had seen before. They held a depth, a silence, like the endless night sky. "Do you need help?" Daniel asked softly. His voice trembled, not from fear, but from the strange feeling that this meeting was not normal. The woman looked at him, and for a moment it felt as if she was looking through him, as if she could see his pain, his kindness, his past, and even his future. "You are wet," she said in a low voice, almost like a whisper carried by the wind. "And yet you stop for me. Why?" Daniel hesitated. He could have said many things. He could have walked away, but instead he spoke the truth. "Because no one else will. Because I know how it feels to be invisible." For the first time, the old woman smiled. It was not the smile of a beggar receiving help. It was the smile of someone who had finally found what they were looking for. She pointed at the small glowing bag beside her. It was strange, almost alive. Its surface shimmered like liquid silver, pulsing faintly with light. No rain touched it, though it sat uncovered. "Carry this," she said. Daniel bent down, carefully lifting the bag. It was light, much lighter than it looked, but the moment his hands touched it, he felt something inside, like a heartbeat, soft but powerful. He looked at the woman in shock. "What is this?" he asked, her eyes locked onto his. "It is a seed," she said. "Not of Earth, not of this city. It is something greater, and it must be carried by hands that still believe in kindness." Daniel froze. The city roared around him, cars, rain, voices, but her words cut through all of it. They sounded impossible, unreal, like lines from an old story. Yet, deep in his chest, something told him they were true. "Why me?" he whispered. "I'm nobody. I just lost my job. I don't even know who I am anymore." The old woman leaned closer. Her voice was gentle but strong. "You are the one who stops, the one who cares. Others pass by, blind to what matters. You still see." The rain eased as if the world itself was listening. Daniel stood there holding the strange glowing bag, his heart racing. Every part of him wanted to ask more. Who was she? Where did she come from? What did she want? But his lips stayed still. The woman struggled to her feet, her movements slow but graceful, like someone who carried centuries on her shoulders. She looked small, but the air around her felt heavy, ancient. "Walk with me," she said. Daniel hesitated. He had no reason to follow, yet he could not say no. Something inside pulled him forward, and so under the broken streetlight, with the rain dripping from rooftops, Daniel began walking beside the strange old woman. They moved down narrow streets, past closed shops, past faces that did not care. People glanced at them but quickly turned away, as if some silent power told them to ignore what they saw. As they walked, Daniel tried again. "Who are you?" The woman looked up at the sky, her silver hair glowing faintly in the light of the city. "Once, long ago, I was a voice in the Great Council," she said. "But that time has ended. My people are gone, scattered, silent, yet a seed remains. And now, so does hope." Daniel's chest tightened. Her words were heavy, filled with loss, but also something else. Purpose. "And me?" he asked. "What am I in this story of yours?" She stopped, turning to face him. Her eyes shone brighter, almost blinding for a moment. "You are the bridge," she said. "The one heart among millions that still beats for others. The seed cannot awaken without such a heart. That is why you are here. That is why you were led to me." Daniel's breath caught. He felt small, but for the first time that day he did not feel useless. He felt seen, needed. The city around them seemed to fade, its noise growing distant. He was no longer just a man who had been fired for kindness. He was something more. A thread in a story older than the stars above. The old woman began walking again, her voice soft, but carrying a power that made his skin shiver. Your fall was not the end, Daniel. It was only the beginning. And as the glowing bag pulsed in his hands, Daniel knew his life had just stepped into the unknown. The city grew quieter as Daniel followed the old woman through narrow streets. The rain had slowed to a mist, leaving the roads shining like silver lines under the faint glow of lamps. In his hands, the strange bag pulsed gently, like it carried a heartbeat of its own. Each throb of light made him more aware that he was holding something far beyond human. The woman walked slowly but with purpose. Her steps were careful, as though she knew exactly where she was going. Daniel wanted to ask questions, but his throat felt heavy. His mind spun with fear and curiosity. He had lost his job only hours ago, and now he was walking through the city with a mysterious alien woman carrying a glowing seed. Finally, they stopped near an abandoned building. The windows were broken, the walls covered with old posters no one cared to read. She placed her hand on the door. At her touch, the door creaked open, not with the sound of rust, but with a low hum, as if something hidden inside recognized her. Daniel hesitated. What is this place? The woman glanced at him. Her eyes reflected the soft light of the bag. It is a place where the world forgot. But not everything inside is dead. They stepped in. The air smelled of dust and old rain. The room was dark, filled with shadows. But as soon as Daniel crossed the threshold, the bag in his hands shone brighter, pushing back the darkness. The walls lit up faintly, lines of silver symbols appearing like veins of light. Daniel stared in awe. They were not human letters. They curved and flowed like rivers, alive with motion. What? What is this? Daniel whispered. The old woman's voice was soft but firm. It is memory, the memory of my people. The seed you hold carries not just power. It carries our story, our hope. Daniel looked down at the bag. The glow felt warmer now, almost comforting. Why me? Why not someone stronger? Someone smarter? The woman stepped closer. Her hand, thin and pale, rested lightly on his arm. Strength breaks, intelligence corrupts, but kindness endures. The seed does not respond to power. It responds to the heart. That is why it called to you. Daniel swallowed hard. He thought about his life, about the company that threw him away, about all the times he helped others even when it cost him time or comfort. He had never seen those small acts as anything important. Yet here, in this strange place, those simple acts were the reason he was chosen. The woman moved deeper into the room. With a wave of her hand, the silver symbols shifted, forming a doorway of light. She beckoned him to follow. Daniel stepped through, his heart pounding. Behind the door was a hidden chamber, round and vast, like the inside of a dome. In the center stood a pedestal of stone, and above it floated a fragment of crystal, cracked but still glowing faintly. The bag in his hands pulsed stronger, as if it wanted to leap toward the crystal. This, the woman said, her voice echoing in the chamber, was once the heart of the council. It connected worlds. It healed. It guided. It united. But when my people fell, it shattered. The seed you hold is the last piece that can awaken it again. Daniel stared at the floating crystal. His breath caught in his chest. He felt small, a single man standing before something that carried the weight of galaxies. Why now? He asked quietly. The woman's face grew sad. Because the universe is growing colder. Worlds close their doors, hearts grow harder. Kindness becomes rare. If the heart of the council is not awakened soon, the light will fade forever. And then, not just my people, but all people, will lose their chance to be more. Daniel gripped the bag tighter. His hands trembled. The responsibility felt too heavy. He had been fired, forgotten, laughed at. How could he be the one to carry something so great? As if sensing his fear, the woman stepped close again. Do not think of the galaxy. Do not think of millions. Think of one person you helped, one smile you gave, one life you touched. That is enough. The seed does not need perfection. It needs truth. And you carry that truth. For the first time, Daniel felt something stir inside him. Not pride, but courage. Small, fragile, but real. He looked at the pedestal, at the broken crystal waiting in silence. The glowing bag pulsed in his hands, stronger than ever, like it was alive, waiting for his choice. Daniel raised his eyes to the woman. What happens if I place it there? Her gaze was steady. The seed will show you the truth. But truth is never easy. It may break you, or it may make you greater than you ever dreamed. The chamber grew silent, the air thick with anticipation. Daniel stood at the edge of something vast, holding the key to a future he did not yet understand, and, as the seed's light bathed his face, one thought burned in his mind. His fall was not the end. It was the beginning of a secret far greater than himself. The chamber was silent, filled only with the soft hum of the crystal floating above the stone pedestal. The silver light of the seed in Daniel's hands pulsed gently, like a living heart, waiting for its next breath. His fingers tightened around the glowing bag, his mind racing with doubt and fear. The old woman stood nearby, her silver hair glowing faintly in the strange light. Her eyes never left him. She was calm, patient, as if she had already seen this moment long before he arrived. You must decide, she said quietly. No one can force you. The seed listens only to choice freely given. Daniel swallowed hard. His throat felt dry. He wanted to believe he could do it, but a storm raged inside him. I'm not someone special, he whispered. I was just a worker. I spent my life helping people with small things, picking up papers, sharing food, listening when no one else would. But I don't know how to carry this. The woman stepped closer, her gaze steady. That is exactly why it must be you. The great powers of the galaxy failed. They had strength, they had armies, they had knowledge, but no kindness. They built empires, and then they broke them. You are not chosen because of what you can destroy. You are chosen because of what you can save. Her words cut deep into him. He looked down at the glowing seed. Its light reflected in his eyes, soft but insistent. He felt its warmth spreading into his palms, into his chest. It was as if the seed was alive, waiting for his answer. Still, his doubts clawed at him. What if I fail? What if I'm not enough? The woman's voice grew gentler. Failure is not the enemy. Silence is. To do nothing is the only true failure. Every act of kindness you gave, no matter how small, was enough for someone. Do you not see? That is why the seed chose you. Daniel closed his eyes. Memories came flooding back, faces of people he had helped. The tired co-worker who smiled after he stayed late to finish her reports. The janitor whose heavy cart he pushed up the long hall. The quiet young man who once told him, "You're the only one who ever asked how I was doing." Small things, forgotten by everyone else, but not by the seed. His chest tightened. The choice was not just about him. It was about something bigger, something waiting beyond the walls of this ruined chamber. He opened his eyes and looked at the old woman. If I do this, what will happen to me? Her expression was unreadable. The seed will show you truth. Truth is not gentle. It may break the life you thought you had, but it will also open doors to what you can become. You will not be the same. That is the price of choice. Daniel's heart pounded. The fear was real, but so was the quiet courage rising within him. For the first time since losing his job, he felt as if the path before him mattered. He stepped closer to the pedestal. The floating crystal flickered weakly like a candle on the edge of dying. The seed in his hands responded, glowing brighter, almost eager. The woman's voice echoed softly through the chamber. Remember, you are not alone. My people may be gone, but their hope lives in you. The universe needs not another warrior, but a human heart that still believes in others. Daniel lifted the bag slowly. His hand shook. The light spilled across his face, bathing the room in silver. Each pulse of the seed matched the rhythm of his heartbeat. He hesitated, just inches from the pedestal. His breath came fast. Doubt screamed at him. What if you're too weak? What if this destroys you? What if you are nothing at all? But another voice whispered, quiet, steady, familiar. His own heart. You were fired for kindness. But kindness was never a mistake. With a deep breath, Daniel placed the glowing seed on the pedestal. The chamber exploded with light. The silver symbols on the walls flared to life, racing like rivers of fire across the dome. The broken crystal, above, shuddered, cracks glowing as if stitched together by invisible threads. Daniel stumbled back, shielding his eyes, but the warmth spread through him, filling his chest, his veins, his very soul. The old woman raised her arms, her voice strong, almost singing. The choice has been made. The bridge has been found. The crystal's glow surged, filling the chamber with a sound like countless voices whispering all at once. Daniel felt it enter his mind, not with words, but with visions, glimpses of worlds beyond his own. Planets bathed in light, cities rebuilt from ruins, beings of different forms standing together, their hands joined. He gasped, his body trembling, tears filling his eyes. The visions were too vast, too heavy, but also beautiful. When the light finally dimmed, the chamber was silent again. The crystal floated steady, glowing stronger than before. The seed was gone. Daniel collapsed to his knees, shaking. His body felt weak, but inside, he was changed. The choice had been made, and now, nothing would ever be the same. The old woman walked to him, her hand resting lightly on his shoulder. Her voice was gentle again. You have stepped into a story greater than you can see. This is only the beginning. Daniel looked up at her, his face pale but his eyes burning, with something new, purpose, and though fear still clung to him, he knew he had chosen. He had taken the first step into a future greater than his fall. The light of the crystal still lingered in the chamber, painting the walls with silver veins that glowed faintly, like the heartbeat of something ancient. Daniel sat on the cold, stone floor, his chest rising and falling as if he had just climbed a mountain. The seed was gone, absorbed into the crystal, but its warmth still burned inside him. The old woman looked at him with quiet satisfaction. It has accepted you, she said. The bridge has begun to form. Daniel forced himself to stand. His legs trembled, but he managed. What happens now? He asked, his voice rough. Now, she said, the journey begins. The seed has awakened a path, and you must walk it. Her words sent a chill down his spine. The choice was behind him, but the road ahead was unknown. The chamber walls shifted, opening a narrow passage lit by glowing lines. The old woman stepped toward it without hesitation. Daniel followed, his footsteps echoing in the silence. Through forgotten paths, the passage led them into a maze beneath the city. Old tunnels stretched in every direction, filled with rusted rails, broken machines, and shadows that moved like memories. Yet the lines of light guided their steps, glowing whenever. Daniel walked closer, fading when he passed. Daniel ran his hand along the wall. How long has this been here? Longer than your cities. Longer than your people, she answered. The council built places like this across many worlds. But when war came, most were buried, lost, or broken. Few remember them now. Daniel thought of the bustling city above, people rushing for jobs, screens, money. None of them knew what slept beneath their feet. None of them knew that a single act of kindness could open doors older than history. The air grew colder as they moved deeper. Strange sounds echoed, soft hums, distant whispers, the groan of old metal. Daniel felt uneasy, but the old woman walked, with calm steps as if she had traveled this way many times before. Lessons of kindness. As they walked, she spoke. You wonder why kindness matters. Why a seed of light would choose a man fired for caring too much, do you not? Daniel gave a tired laugh. I do. I still don't understand. Kindness never paid my bills. It never protected me. It only made me weaker in the eyes of others. The woman stopped and turned to face him. Her silver eyes glowed faintly in the dark. Kindness does not build walls. It builds bridges. It does not crush enemies. It heals strangers. Empires fall, Daniel, but bridges remain. And when the stars grow cold, it is kindness that keeps fire alive. Her words struck deep. Daniel remembered his manager's voice calling him weak. He remembered laughter at his back when he carried too much for others. Yet here, in these forgotten tunnels, his weakness had become strength. A shadow in the dark. The path narrowed. The glow on the walls flickered, as if warning them. Daniel slowed. "Something's wrong," he whispered. From the shadows ahead came a sound, a low hiss like metal dragging against stone. The air grew heavy, sharp with the scent of iron. The old woman's expression darkened. "Not all who walk these tunnels are friends." From the darkness emerged a shape, tall, armored, with glowing red eyes. Its body was half machine, half flesh, patched together like a broken weapon forced to live. Daniel stepped back, his heart racing. "What is that?" "A remnant," she said. "Created long ago when kindness was seen as weakness. It serves. No master now, only hunger." The creature moved forward, its steps slow but crushing. Its eyes locked onto the glow in Daniel's chest, the faint light still burning from the seed. "It wants me," Daniel whispered. "Yes," the old woman replied calmly. "Because you carry what it cannot. It feeds on fear, but it cannot. Touch kindness, remember this, the first test." The remnant lunged, metal claws striking. Daniel stumbled back, fear exploding inside him. He wanted to run, but the woman's words rang in his mind. "It feeds on fear." He forced himself to stop. His hands trembled, but he lifted them, speaking not with anger, but with courage. "I am not your enemy. I will not fight you." The creature froze, its claws inches from his face. The red in its eyes flickered as if confused. Daniel's voice grew stronger. "You were made to destroy, but you are still alive. You don't have to be just hunger. You don't have to be just a weapon." The chamber shook with silence. Then slowly the creature lowered its claws. Its body shuddered, as if a war was raging inside it. Finally, with a heavy groan, it turned and sank back into the shadows, leaving them untouched. Daniel collapsed to his knees, gasping. His heart thundered, but he was alive. The old woman smiled faintly. "You see? Kindness is not weakness. Even a broken weapon can hear it. Even darkness can pause before it." The path ahead. They continued through the tunnels, the air lighter now. The glowing lines on the walls shone brighter, guiding them forward. Daniel walked in silence, his mind replaying what had just happened. He had faced something terrifying, not with fists, but with words. Words of compassion. And it had worked. He glanced at the old woman. For the first time, he felt a spark of belief, not just in her, but in himself. Maybe he truly was chosen, for a reason. At the end of the tunnel, a vast door stood, carved with symbols that shimmered faintly. The woman placed her hand against it. "Beyond this lies the next step," she said. "The journey has only begun. But remember, Daniel, each step will test not your strength but your heart." Daniel stared at the door. He was still afraid, but now there was something stronger inside him. Hope. And as the door began to open, he knew the journey ahead would change not only his life, but perhaps the fate of worlds. The great door opened with a deep rumble, like the sound of mountains moving. A soft silver glow spilled out, washing over Daniel and the old woman. Beyond the doorway stretched a vast chamber, larger than anything he had seen underground. The walls curved high above, covered with shifting symbols of light. In the center of the chamber floated a sphere of crystal, cracked but still alive with faint energy. Its surface pulsed slowly, like the heartbeat of a sleeping giant. Daniel felt the warmth in his chest respond, the glow that had entered him. From the seed flickered brighter, almost pulling him forward. The old woman's voice echoed softly. "This is the heart. what remains of the council's core. Here lies the truth of why you were chosen. Daniel stepped forward, his eyes wide. The air was heavy, buzzing with unseen power. It pressed against his skin, filled his lungs, made his heart race. It feels alive. It is alive, she answered. It remembers. It watches. It waits. Daniel stopped at the edge of the floating sphere. His reflection shimmered on its cracked surface, but it was not only his reflection. He saw faces. Strange. Faces of alien beings he had never seen before. Some with gentle eyes, some with strange shapes, some with scars of battle. All of them looked at him, silent, as if waiting for him to speak. He stumbled back, shaken. What is this? Why are they looking at me? The old woman's silver eyes softened. They are memories of those who carried the light before you. They are the guardians of kindness across worlds. You are not the first, Daniel, but you may be the last. Her words sent a shiver down his spine. The last? The council is gone. The bridges have collapsed. Many turned to war, to greed, to fear. The seed you carried was the final spark. If you fail, there will be no more. Daniel's hands clenched into fists. Why me? Why not someone stronger? Someone wiser? The sphere pulsed brighter, as if answering him itself. In his mind, visions exploded. Visions of truth. He saw a world, bathed in fire, cities burning while leaders argued over power. He saw soldiers marching under flags, their eyes empty, their hearts hard. He saw kindness mocked, crushed, forgotten. Then the vision shifted. He saw himself, not as he was, but as he could be. He stood between alien beings of many forms, his hands open, his face calm. Around him, enemies lowered their weapons, not out of fear, but out of recognition. The visions raced faster, children laughing on alien soil, bridges of light stretching between planets, broken machines rebuilt not for war, but for life. And then, darkness. A galaxy without bridges, worlds drifting apart, kindness lost, voices silent. Daniel gasped, clutching his chest. The visions burned his mind, but they carried truth. His choice was more than personal. It was for everything. He dropped to his knees, trembling. I can't carry this. The old woman knelt beside him, her hand light on his shoulder. You already are carrying it. The seed chose you not because you are perfect, but because you are human, because you care even when no one sees. That is the strength no army can match. Her words settled into him, quiet but powerful. His breath slowed. His fear eased. The seed's awakening. The sphere of crystal cracked wider, light spilling out, like rivers of silver fire. Daniel shielded his eyes, but the glow reached for him, wrapping him in warmth. A voice filled the chamber. Not one voice, but many, layered together like a chorus. It spoke not in words, but in feeling. Daniel understood, it as if it was inside him. You are the bridge. You are the bearer. Do not fear the path, for the path is made by every step you take. Tears filled Daniel's eyes. He was just a man who once carried a box out of a company that threw him away. Yet here, he was something more. Not because he sought power, but because he chose kindness when it cost him everything. The light of the sphere poured into him, filling his chest until he thought he would burst. His veins glowed faintly, his eyes shimmered with silver. He gasped, not in pain, but in awe. The burden of revelation. Slowly, the light dimmed. Daniel stood shaking, but stronger than before. The sphere floated steady, its cracks glowing with new life. The old woman's face was full of quiet pride. The heart has accepted you. The bridges will begin to form again. But remember, Daniel, this is not salvation. It is only the chance for it. Daniel's voice was low, heavy with the weight of what he had seen. I understand. If I fail, everything fails. She nodded. And if you succeed, no one will ever know it was you. That is the way of kindness. It does not shout. It does not demand reward. It simply gives. Daniel closed his eyes, breathing deeply. He felt the truth of her words. The revelation was not glory. It was responsibility. When he opened his eyes, the chamber felt different, not less heavy, but less empty. He was not alone anymore. The light of countless lives walked with him. The old woman stepped toward the far side of the chamber, where another door waited. Come. The heart has shown you the truth. Now you must carry it forward. The journey is not done. Daniel followed, his steps steadier, though the weight in his chest remained. He glanced back one last time at the glowing sphere. It pulsed softly, like a quiet heartbeat. For a moment, he thought he heard voices whispering, not of fear, but of hope. And as the door opened, Daniel understood. His life was no longer his own. He carried a fire meant for worlds beyond his own. The revelation had changed him, forever. The new door opened with a sigh, as if it had been waiting centuries for this moment. Beyond it stretched a long hall of light. The walls glimmered faintly, with silver veins pulsing in rhythm with Daniel's own heartbeat. Each step he took echoed not like footsteps on stone, but like ripples moving through water. The old woman walked beside him, silent. Her presence was steady, but her eyes seemed tired, as if her part in this story was almost done. Daniel felt the change inside him, the warmth of the seed, the weight of the visions, the truth of the heart. He was no longer the man who carried a box out of his company, broken by rejection. He was something more, yet he still wondered, what would come next? At the end of the hall stood an archway opening into the night sky, but it was not the same sky he knew. The stars shimmered brighter, alive with color. Rivers of light stretched between them, like threads weaving worlds together. Daniel stepped forward, his breath caught in awe. What is this place? The old woman's voice was soft. It is the glimpse of what can be. The greater future. Not promised, not certain, but possible if you carry the light forward. Visions of hope. As Daniel stood under the archway, the air shimmered and visions bloomed before his eyes. He saw children, human and alien, playing together under the same sun. He saw broken cities rebuilt with hands from many worlds working side by side. He saw weapons laid down, not because they were defeated, but because hearts chose peace. He saw kindness not mocked, but honored, leaders listening, not shouting. Strangers helping strangers without fear. It was beautiful, too beautiful. His chest tightened, tears burned in his eyes. This is possible? The old woman nodded. Yes, but only if hearts like yours continue to choose kindness even when the world calls it weakness. The burden of legacy. Daniel turned to her. Why show me this? Why not show the powerful, the leaders, the ones who control armies and wealth? Her silver eyes glowed faintly. Because they will not listen. They believe strength lies in control. But you know strength lies in care. Power without kindness destroys. Kindness without power endures. And sometimes that is enough to change everything. Daniel lowered his head. The weight pressed on him again. He was just one man. How could one man carry such a burden? The woman placed her hand gently on his chest, over the glow that pulsed within him. You will not carry it alone. Every act of kindness spreads, touching, lives you may never see. That is the bridge. That is the legacy. Her words sank deep, steadying him, the passing of the torch. The old woman's steps grew slower. Her shoulders bent. Daniel noticed her face fading, as if her body was no longer strong enough to hold the weight of centuries. Wait, he said, fear rising. What's happening to you? She smiled softly, her silver hair catching the starlight. My time ends, Daniel. I was only the keeper. The seed has found its bearer. My task is finished. Daniel shook his head. No, I still need you. I don't know what to do without you. Her eyes softened. You do know. You have always known. You knew it when you picked up fallen papers, when you stayed late to help a tired friend, when you stopped to see me. On a rainy night, you already walked the path. Now you must trust it. Her body shimmered, breaking into streams of silver light. She raised her hand one last time, touching his cheek. The future is not written, Daniel, but you can help. Write it. And then she was gone. Only light remained, scattering into the night sky like stars returning home. The greater future begins. Daniel stood alone under the archway, the glow in his chest burning steady. The visions faded, leaving only the quiet night and the endless stars. He was no longer afraid. He was no longer lost. He understood now. Kindness was not small. It was the greatest power left in a broken galaxy. He turned back toward the hall, toward the city above, toward the world that had thrown him away. It would not be easy. People would laugh, people would mock, some would fight against him. But that no longer mattered. He carried something greater. As he stepped into the night, the stars above seemed to shift, forming faint bridges of light that stretched across the sky. He smiled, knowing it was only the beginning. Daniel, the man fired for kindness, had become the bridge between worlds. His fall had led him to a greater future, not just for himself, but for all who would dare to believe in kindness again.